Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to the fifth episode in this series called the Parent-Adolescent Project. Over the last month, we have talked about various aspects of parenting, and we've had different experts who've joined us. We've talked about a book that's coming out, and it has been a wonderful 1 month that we've seen. Today, we are going to talk about enhancing the parent-child bond, right? And our expert today is Megha Sharma. Megha is a counseling psychologist who's been practicing with children, adolescents, and adults, right? So we're really thrilled to have you here today, Megha.
Thank you so much.
Before I hand this over to Megha, I just want to set a context a little bit. I think, for children growing up, one of the things that determines their future view of the world, their relationships, their entire perspective on so many things is how they bond with their primary caregivers in the very early years of life, and then how they sort of, how that bond evolves as they grow. And this bond not only is with the parents, it's also with their friends, their extended family members. All of these things have an influence on how children turn out or as young adults. But I guess the central role here is played by the parents, right? They have profound impact on the bond that children share with them, and in turn how children learn to view their world and their own relationships, their life, their work, all of that, right? So this is really a very central piece in parenting, and would love to hear what you have to share with us, Megha, today. Over to you.
Thank you so much for having me here. And this topic is actually very close to my heart. I have worked with children so much. I've worked with parents a lot. And then hearing their concerns and hearing those little kids talking about their feelings always used to overwhelm me. So this opportunity to just send across a message that how can parents enhance their relationship and their bonding with their children, I think is really needed this time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think even the pandemic has just brought out so much for us, things that always existed, but maybe we didn't notice as much. But with children being at home so much more, parents being at home so much more, I think it has brought out a lot of questions. People have realized the kind of bond or the kind of attachment they have with their parents. And vis-a-vis how parents are bonding with their children, and it has brought out a lot of questions. So as we go, I'm going to keep asking some questions that we already have received, and for those watching us live, please feel free to drop questions in the messages. Over to you, Megha.
Right. So when we are talking about this parent-child bond, like you rightly said that, this pandemic has changed people so much. There were children who were craving to have their parents at, around them when they were doing their homework, when they would come back from school, they would want to listen, and they would also want to share about how their day went. However, earlier at times, when both the parents were working, children were not getting that opportunity. And sometimes they would feel that, okay, something was maybe missing. And now when the situations are also turning, students, children, they're also realizing that, okay, was this what I really wanted? Or maybe the kind of image that they had in their mind that, okay, this is the way that I'm going to bond with their parents, maybe that didn't turn out. So a lot of questions were always coming up in the child's mind as well. Now, when we are talking about this attachment, it is a rather slow process. This is going to build and this is going to deepen over time. A lot of people, when they are interacting with their children, they would want to, no, I spent time with them. I went for a painting class yesterday. Why is it that my child is still not sharing? Well, you need to maintain that patience, continue with that ritual, because this is something which is going to deepen over the time, right? This love, this care, this concern that you are showing towards your child, of course, it is going to impact that bonding. And having that strong bond with your child is also going to ensure how they're going to turn out in the future, how their adult life is going to be. So we will be talking about all that as well. But again, keep that in mind, it will take time. We will have to have that patience. So this transitioning, from the moving on to the parenting stage and developing that bond, actually that connection starts very early. So at times people feel that when that baby was inside the mother's womb, then only they started feeling that bond already, right? So this connection, this deepening on of that particular bond is also going to start at a very early stage of the child's life also, and when you are also transitioning into that parenthood. So this infant, this little baby is also going to learn a lot, and they are going to be dependent on you as the primary caregiver. So when we are using the word parent over here, all these aspects that we are talking about, they would also be relating to the primary caregiver of the child. So the connection they share with their caregiver as well. We have to ensure that we are providing a very secure and a safe base for the child, that they can come and they can fall back upon you whenever it is needed or required. And of course, it is not going to be a very easy journey for the parents also. Stepping into parenthood, yes, it is one of the most beautiful journey, but it is going to come with so many challenges for you as well. The roles are also very different from what you would have seen in your particular childhood. The parental roles, when we talk about the role that the father plays or the role that the mother plays, they're also very, very different. And over here, we need to emphasize that both the parents or whosoever is the caregiver, they need to be on the same page when they are planning about what is to be done with the child, or how they need to plan the upbringing of the child as well. And there are times when we notice that, earlier when it was being said that father is only going to take care of the monetary aspects, or father is only going to take care of his or her career, his career side, right? But now the rules are also changing. Like with the pandemic, a lot of people, when they were working from their homes, but then when the situation is now changing, so many teachers, the female teachers who are working in institutes, certain schools, they are now going back to work. And then we have certain father figures who are staying home and they are more involved in the parenting. So this shift also has to be taken into account when we talk about how or what are we bringing onto the table in terms of parenting.
That's very well sort of context being set for this conversation. And while you were talking about parents, I was thinking that there are women mothers who are confused because they don't feel that immediate bond with the child. How we are led to think that, oh, the moment you hold your baby you feel this amazing bond, but there have been so many women who don't feel it, and they don't feel it even later, like even when the child's a few years older, they don't feel that same hype or the same overwhelming bond with their child. What does that mean? Is it that they are not bonding? Is it going to harm the child? Often women end up feeling guilty about it, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
And with that guilt, they also start questioning themselves. Am I the right mother? Was I
Absolutely.
destined to be a mother or not? Or, they start, even if it was a planned pregnancy or not, they start questioning it. Was this the right decision to, move ahead with? Yes, a lot of people, they do feel that, right? They are not feeling that attachment already. Even if, when they start feeding the child also, they feel that, okay, that sense of being a mother is not coming. And it is okay. It is okay. Not everybody has to be that, that typical mother, that they have to be always around the child, always providing for the child and having that feeling in their heart. Yes, it is going to develop over time.
Right.
Because for
Right.
them also, like I mentioned, the transition to the parenthood is also a complete process in itself.
It's a
They are going through
process.
so many things
Absolutely.
within themselves. There are hormonal changes which are coming along, there are physical changes. So for them to accept their new role, their new body also takes time. And
Even relational, right? Like between the couple themselves, there is so much change in the dynamics itself when there is a baby that comes into the equation.
yeah, and then
So
people
yeah,
then say that there is no
to
me time, and then couples say that we're not getting our we time.
right, right, which is true to some extent, but I think that's more of a temporary problem that couples face. Um, right. So what I'm hearing you say is that it's all right if people don't feel that sense of attachment immediately, and it's all right, right? But
It's
that
not.
also brings me back to the question of when we say that we need to give the child a sense of safety and security, what does that really mean for parents? I know from being psychologists, we understand what that means, but um, if someone doesn't know, what would you how would you explain the concept of the safety and security that we need to provide to the child? What does that mean?
So when we are talking about that safety and that security, we are going beyond the physical aspect. Yes, we have provided the child with a house, we have provided the child with all the basic things which are important for survival. But when we are putting this term into the psychological framework, we go a step beyond that. And we are also talking about that emotional safety. We are talking about that availability as well. So whenever a child is in need of something, of course, as compared to animals, the human babies, they're not naturally inborn with everything. The survival is to be supported by the parents first. And we are talking and emphasizing the fact that survival and that safety is also emotional in a way. The child should be, they should feel seen, they should feel heard. Okay, I belong to this house, okay, I belong to this family, and if I'm talking, somebody is there to listen to me. And that further, kind of confirms a feeling in their heart that, okay, if I would be in any trouble, if I would want to, share something, or if I would need something, I have somebody there for me.
Right, right. And this sense, so what you're saying again is that the idea that the child is seen, heard, that there's a space for their emotions, for whatever it is that they're going through. And this sense needs to be cultivated right from the start, right from when they're very young, because, engagement or interaction with the adult starts very early on
It
in
does,
life,
it does.
right? So it's way before language develops, so it's really non-verbal in the start, but just being there and being attentive to their children is probably one of the ways of providing this sense of safety and security.
Exactly, exactly. And here we also emphasize the fact that, a lot of parents say that, okay, I'm hugging the child. So will the child feel safe? But
Mm-hmm.
are you listening to the child? That is
Mm-hmm.
also going to matter a lot over here.
Right, right. So don't just check the typical boxes that, oh, I'm hugging the child, I'm playing basketball with the child, or we are doing drawing together. But maybe listening to them and being with them when they feel the most vulnerable is what
Exactly.
also accounts for this safety. Yeah.
And also,
Very
acknowledging their
interesting.
existence.
Right, right, right.
So even if,
Absolutely.
we talk about a situation when people were, the pandemic situation, they were all working from their homes. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
kids, even at that time, mentioned that even if my parents are there inside my house, I don't really feel that they're there because we don't see that
Right,
availability.
right.
So physically, they are
Mm-hmm.
able to see you, but emotionally, they're not able to feel your presence. In
Mm-hmm.
a situation like this, the connection is going to further deteriorate, and it is going to have, let's say, a negative impact on the kind of relationship that you're sharing. Because the child is not able to feel their existence when you are around, the child is not able to feel that they can share with you. They are not having that sense of being heard from you as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, this is actually a very real challenge, given the kind of work life most parents have nowadays. I can imagine how you're constantly between meetings or deadlines, and amidst all of that, paying attention to something that the child's asking for, which is seemingly unimportant to us, right, can be quite a struggle, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, yeah. I think we always come to this at some point in every conversation, that parenting is not easy.
It is.
And acknowledging that, we'll move forward.
Yes.
See
So
what you
over
have to
here,
say.
we are not going to always emphasize, okay, no, parents have to do a lot. We are acknowledging that it is a struggle for the parents also. It is a learning throughout. So when we're talking about parenting, it's not just going to be for the initial 2 years, initial 3 years, and the child goes to middle school and then it's all over. It is going to continue for a really long time. And as parent, you need to keep on learning things and changing things also. So when we are talking about this relationship, and right now we also discussed about that, how it is actually having an impact. So let's talk about, if we are able to maintain a good relationship with our children, then how it can impact the child's growth positively. The physical and the emotional development of the child really matters a lot, and when we are able to provide them with a comfortable space which is full of positive emotions and good growth, then it is going to further help them in nurturing their own physical, emotional, as well as the social development too. So in a way, we are laying that foundation already. Beginning early, we are making that foundation even stronger, that the child is able to maintain good relationship not just with their immediate family members but also with people outside. So their social circle is also going to be enhanced, and they would be also able to put their views across in a very confident manner. And the level of self-esteem that is impacted is actually very tremendous. They feel so positive about themselves if they have a strong foundation back at home. Then, they get the sense that, okay, I can conquer everything. And if I would not be able to do it, I have somebody who will push me into achieving my goals. And also understanding which goal is achievable and which is just, a creation of my own reality, imagination. Right? So we are nurturing so many skills. We are enhancing their cognitive development. We are enhancing their social development only by being there for our children. And be it a birthday party, be it a school event, be it them going on stage to perform, taking part in debates, all of that will be reflected from the behavior that is being projected at home also. So again, emphasizing the fact that this is something that can be developed, because it is always an ongoing process. So even if right now you might be feeling that, okay, I feel my kid doesn't feel that attached with me, that is okay. Let's talk about how we can further enhance that relationship. So talking about attachment, like we started with this discussion, that attachment is something which takes a lot of time. The bonding happens over time. You need to have that patience. So let's start understanding that there are various attachment styles, and if possible, why not try to relate yourself with one of the attachment styles. So we talk about mainly 4 kind of attachment styles. It can be a secure attachment style, it could be an anxious or ambivalent attachment style, it could be an avoidant, or it could be a disorganized attachment style. So when we talk about a secure attachment style, here the caregivers are there for the child, they are around. And it's not just about that physical proximity, again, we are saying, but we know that you are there for the kid. We know that you're emotionally available for the child. Also, if you are maintaining, let's say, certain routines, they're all very, very healthy routines, which you create while in tandem with the kid. So a discussion happens. There are certain negotiables, certain non-negotiables, which you are then explaining to the child. You are also encouraging the child to speak for themselves and also expressing what you are feeling. So in a certain situation like this, in the future, the child also develops a healthy communication style as an adult, because from the beginning, they were motivated and they were kind of encouraged to speak. And also the parents were interactive with the child, right? They can also monitor and self-regulate their emotions, and they can also ask for help if in case they need something. Then we also have an anxious or the ambivalent attachment style, wherein the kind of care which is being provided is inconsistent. the child is not always sure as to, okay, will I get that support or will I not get that support? There are times when you are available, and there are times when the kid is not sure whether you would be around or not. So what happens? The child, craves for that attachment from you. And as an adult, we might see certain clinginess in their behavior. They have a very, difficult time in letting go of things. And at the same time, they develop that fear of abandonment. Okay. And this impacts the relationship also. They might not be able to trust people very, very easily because they have this, constant fear of abandonment at the back of their mind. And as a person, they would also need constant reassurance. Then we have the avoidant attachment style, wherein the child feels that they did not receive a lot of empathy or that emotionally oriented behavior from their caregivers. And the caregivers were also not able to provide that support very easily. And they felt that they were not able to, the child would feel that the caregiver was not giving them the basic requirements, the basic safety, the basic shelter, the basic food requirements also. And they felt that their feelings were not validated. So as an adult, this particular child, if there was an avoidant attachment style in the childhood, they might have a difficulty in expressing out their emotions, and they might also start withdrawing from certain situations. And in a situation, if they are in need of help, they are in trouble, they hesitate a lot. They would not be able to go across and seek help readily. And then we also have the disorganized attachment style, which has, aspects from the ambivalent or anxious as well as the avoidant style also, wherein the parent is kind of a threat to the child. This feeling of attachment is not there, but the child might be scared of you. Maybe there was a lot of scolding, and you also had trouble communicating what you really wanted. So the child did not have a clear idea that, okay, what can I do? What should I not do? So what happens? The child might also start doubting themselves. So as an adult, they might also have a fear of rejection. I am going to do something wrong. What if people are going to leave me and I'm not really sure about myself? So we see how, it all begins very early. And every small event here or there, the children are noticing. Even if you say that or you would not say that, it can be reflected in the way you are interacting or your facial expressions. Children are very smart. So they are going to, kind of imbibe all of that. And eventually it can start reflecting in their personality later on as well.
Very insightful, Megha. So, one question that I have here is that often we see children who are younger, for example, 6, 7, 8 years old, or even younger, very clingy. They always want to be around the mother, don't want to go anywhere alone. They are upset if the mother or sometimes even both parents are going out, or they're traveling. But as they grow, as they cross over into their teen years, this behavior fades, and then they are somewhat all right. So I'm curious, what does that mean? Does this mean that their attachment styles changing? Because there's that clinginess which one would correlate with the anxious attachment style, anxious ambivalent. But as they are growing up, they seem to be all right. So is there something to be worried there? Um, and
No.
along with this, there's another thing that often happens. And again, I have a question along those lines, is that the reverse also happens sometimes, where a child is seems healthy and he's communicating and talking to their parents, but suddenly when they hit typically the teen years, they're in 6th, 7th standard, they start to sort of not completely go into a shell maybe, but talk less and be more secretive, and avoid parents altogether. So how would you explain these shifts that happen?
So when we're talking about, this transitioning, even now the child is having, their own transitioning phases. They are also growing up. They're also going through all these, internal hormonal changes. They are from, the childhood, they're entering their, the pubescent period. right? The pre-puberty, the puberty stage, moving on to the adolescent stage also. So what is happening over here is when we are talking about their clinginess, yes, maybe initially in their childhood, the parents did not or were not able to provide the support all the time. And there are times like, parents say that, okay, we will take you out to the park in the evening, but they did not, you know, come, I will be picking you up from the school, but maybe the
Right.
parents had an urgent meeting and the driver or
Right.
somebody else had to pick them up. So what is happening? The child also starts, feeling that sense of lack of trust in a way that, okay, and then they would want to cling more towards the parents. But eventually, as they're growing old, they also start having an understanding of the world around them. And when the parents are able to express themselves, that okay, or they are giving them particular reasons, the child starts understanding, or now we say the adult starts understanding, because they are also having a sense of the world now, that how is it functioning. The traces of the kind of attachment they had in the childhood will still start reflecting, like you said, that when they are later on, they still reflect this clinginess or the fear of abandonment in their relationship. But yes, they're going to cross all these phases as well.
Right.
And of course, when we talk about a teenager, they have this whole rush of hormones inside. They
Yeah.
are not able to understand what is happening with them, what is happening outside. So few children, they actually go into their own shell, because maybe they feel that, okay, if I'm going to share it with my parents, I might be scolded, or they might not understand what I'm going through. So this this identity, this new identity that now they are getting as a teenager, their body is also changing, so they might be having a difficult time, and teenage period is not easy at all.
Yeah.
Even if they get that pimple on their face, they would feel the entire corridor is only looking at that pimple only.
True. True.
So
Very true.
if parents are very, very supportive around that time period, and they try to listen to the child, and listening is not just about okay, I'm cooking, you talk, whatever you have to, you share about your day, but it's actually about that that heart to heart connect, that okay, I do understand that what you are going through, and it is real. Maybe this can help the child in stepping out of the shell a bit.
That's true. That's true. So, again, I think I'm just going to summarize what you were just saying. What I'm hearing is that first, that not to worry if these behaviors are shifting. The patterns are shifting a little. That's fine. Um, for adolescents, it's to some extent normal to want to be secretive, because their world just expands from parents and suddenly to this whole bigger world of friends and peers and so much more. So it's okay for them to focus maybe on sharing more with their peers than with their parents, and it's fine, as long as they still come and they have that space. They know that they can come and talk to you, so the channel still exists. Maybe they're
Channel is there,
using it
yeah.
less, right?
Because they have
And
now other mediums also.
exactly, exactly, exactly. I was also wondering, that in India, growing up, certain things are just normalized. Like you were talking about scolding earlier. So a little bit of scolding, some amount of strict parenting, or a little bit of tough love is what is considered very usual nowadays. And yeah, right. So about that, um, what how are parents supposed to really understand that, okay, this I've got it right, I have the right balance? Because you're really shooting in the dark. You don't know what's going to lead to what and how this whole experiment is going to turn out. So some pointers there would be really helpful.
So when we're talking about parenting, it's actually not a one shoe that fits all situation, right? And it's also not like, okay, we will be giving you one framework and that's the best parenting. No, every child is different, every situation is different. You are different as a parent, you are different as an individual. So we talk about taking things from here and there and then deciding what is the best for you and your child, right? There are certain standard parenting principles or parenting styles we talk about. We have authoritarian, authoritative, permissive, neglectful, etc., etc., right? Authoritarian is like, as you can see on the image, it's like either my way or it's a highway. Parents would want to draw the line and the child has to abide by that. So they might be setting down the rules and the child has to follow the rules. There is no discussion on it. We have the authoritative parenting style, which is a little democratic, wherein parents are sitting and discussing with the child as to what is required, what is not required, what did they like or what did not like, or how they would want you as a kid to do certain things. So they're spending time also, and if they're setting the rules, they would rather discuss and share it with the child that why are these rules important or why are they enforcing all these rules. So it's not like the child will be like, the best kid, the most disciplined one, but at least you are able to put across or voice out what your opinion is. And then we have the permissive parenting style also, wherein it's like kids will be kids. Let them do. Chote bacche hain, khelenge, koodenge, let them be. So we're not saying that authoritarian is the worst. We're not saying like an authoritative is like the super best. But yes, when we are only abiding by one framework, what happens is it actually impacts the attachment style. So when we bring in the attachment, when we bring in the parenting styles, it is going to impact on the kind of attachment and the kind of relationship that you share with it. It is being noticed a lot, like the kind of experiences that we have as psychologists, when parents or when students, when kids are coming in for the sessions, it is noticed that, being authoritative, wherein you are sharing the rules, but you're also sharing the reason behind that rule. And you're also letting the child be. You're giving them that sense of autonomy that helps in developing a secure attachment or maintaining a good relationship with your child. However, if you're only being the supreme boss, that I am going to tell you what you have to do, you have to follow what I'm saying, and this is the line, and you have to stay there. Or you become too neglectful. You're not being there for the child, and a lot of situations come up when parents are not even aware about what stream the children have taken in school. They are not too involved. What happens in a situation like this is that there is a sense of insecure attachment or that relationship weakening between the child and the parent.
Right. This actually helps connect the dots. I guess maybe our viewers also have similar questions that we're talking about the different attachment, the ways in which children or adolescents may attach, but what is it that the parents need to do, or what is it that they're doing well, or maybe not doing well enough, and can be changed, right? So this puts a lot of things in perspective. And it kind of brings another question to my mind. Often when we look at parenting, and the question is, whether you're doing a good enough job or not, somehow for many of us, I think that the standard is set at, we're not abusive. We don't hit our children, or we provide for them, because again, culturally, if you're providing for your children, you're giving them an education, they have food to eat, they have the comforts of life, you've done a good job as a parent, right? So the conversation that we're having today is sort of beyond the typical syllabus, culturally speaking again. And how does one bring about that balance in themselves to be supportive, at the same time make sure that there is some amount of discipline, right? It's again, I feel like it's new for an entire generation of parents.
Yes, you're very, correctly saying that, that balance at times seems to be missing. And either parents feel that, oh, I am taking my daughter or I'm taking my son out to play with me, to go out shopping. I'm spending so much of time. And I always tell them, tell me, do you like somebody? What do you want? This or that. So they feel that, if they're talking a lot, right? If they've opened the doors all the time, this will maintain a good relationship. And on the other side, when we talk about that, that actual traditional part that, we are providing everything for the child, they're going to the school, they have the uniform, We are giving them good food, we are giving them good shelter, etc., etc. What actually is missing is the fact that we as parent, we are either becoming too friendly with them, just like we want to be their friend, or we are becoming too strict with them. So here we need to understand that it's good to be friendly with them, that they can come back to you, right? They can share with you and they know that they can talk to you and you will listen.
Right.
But
Right.
understand you are not their friend,
Mm.
which is where, you as a parent might be confused also.
Mm-hmm.
And you as a parent would be feeling that I'm doing everything, but what is missing?
True.
So be there for them. And as a parent, you should be able to tell them that there are certain things that are maybe not acceptable. So always have that, things that can be negotiated with and things that are completely non-negotiable.
Mm-hmm.
Certain things
Right.
which are not age appropriate. And if your child is indulging into that, the child should have an idea that you as a parent will be saying no to that. Maybe their friends won't. You would not want a teenager to go out smoking.
Yeah.
If their company is doing that, they might come back to you. If you're that friend figure, they might feel that it's okay with you. But as a parent, you have to understand that no, it is not okay for them. And you should be able to convey it to them in a proper manner that is accepted also.
Right. Right. That's very important. I feel like, we keep coming back to this point again and again, that you can be a very friendly parent, but you're not a friend, you're still a parent. And I guess this is a line that can get a little fuzzy at times, especially when we are dealing with adolescents, and it is up to the parents to keep reiterating it, keep drawing these boundaries as they go, because it is also confusing for children, right? um, on one hand, now you can have conversations with your parents which seem like grown up conversations. Maybe you're part of some decisions that the family is making, but at the same time, you are still a child, right? So doing this with a lot of kindness, with a lot of gentleness, but yet doing it firmly, is, I guess, just constantly being very mindful of what we are doing as parents as well, right?
So, like
So
we said, it's not the easy path.
not one bit.
And every turn will give you so many learnings. Like, every
Mm.
event will give you so many learnings, which you can then take forward with your child.
True.
So now, if you move ahead with actually enhancing this relationship, further strengthening this relationship, um, I think it's very important that these four factors, they always fall into. The child should be feeling safe around you emotionally, right? You are there. You've provided that cushion. The child feels seen. That feeling is there. That okay, my parents, they do notice me. I do exist in this particular house. Then how you're actually soothing the child. So basically, whenever they're sharing anything, are you validating their feelings or are you just completely dismissing their feelings, right? And then we talk about providing them support. What kind of a support are you providing? Are you giving them that motivation that, okay, go ahead and take challenges in life and I'm there? If you need support, I am the one who's going to push you forward. So this actually is very important. And under this, there are so many things that can be done. And as the more we emphasize on this, still it feels less that this connection always starts with listening. So we talked about my experience also. There were so many, young children, students coming up to me, and then they would say, nobody listens. मैम कोई सुनता ही नहीं है बात. So they crave that feeling that कोई बैठे उनसे और उनसे डिटेल में बात करे. How are you feeling? Even if the child says, okay, but there is so much more behind that. So why not dig deeper, listen and empathize with them and do not dismiss their feelings.
Mm.
Soothe them that, okay, it's okay to feel like this. You are feeling sad. Maybe, certain things could be very normal for you. Their favorite color, if that's broken, it's maybe a huge deal for them. Maybe not for you. But yet we need to acknowledge the feeling that I do understand, right? I know you're upset, your favorite color broke down. Let us see what we can do it now. So you
Yeah.
need to respond to them very, very sensitively and also appropriately.
Yeah.
so that
So
they
true. I feel like, when you were talking about the whole pimple thing earlier, or even sometimes, teenage relationships or crushes, and for parents, of course, we look at it through a whole different lens of reality and, I guess, equanimity. But for them, it is really, really big, and it's at that point maybe even earth-shattering, right?
exactly.
To acknowledge that, not trivialize all of those things, seems like a very important part of, especially of this stage of life for adolescents, to strengthen the bond.
So we say half the battle is already, won if you are
Absolutely.
listening to them and you're acknowledging their feelings.
Hmm.
You will notice the immediate shift in the child's expression when you would sit down with them and when you start acknowledging their existence and you start talking to them and you're also responding appropriately. Right? So this
Hmm.
expression from your side as a parent is also very, very important. We
Right.
do understand that, a lot of people, they're not very vocal.
Hmm.
They might, as a parent, you might not be saying I love yous every day, but maybe you can still try and expressing how you are feeling about a certain situation. If your child has even taken part in any particular event, how do you
Right.
feel about it? Are you proud of
Mm.
your child? If yes, right at the back of the mind, you are, you're having so many emotions. Try and share them out once and then see that shift already.
Hmm. Hmm.
It changes
Absolutely.
things so much. And at the same time, how about you are giving them that support, you're
Hmm.
giving them that sense of autonomy, and you're giving them the opportunity to take the lead. It could
Right.
be something very small. Let's say, for example, your the friends of your child are visiting over. Why not you give them the lead that, okay, do you want to plan the menu for them? That's a very small step, but we are teaching them so much in this process, and we are also working on our relationship with each other. You're supporting them in their decisions, you're giving them that sense that, okay, you are also grown up and you can take certain decisions. So why not start right away? And this will also help in boosting that relationship so much.
Right, right. I'm sort of again collecting what you said together in my own thoughts. Speaking what you're feeling, maybe not just saying the cliched things or not saying it as often or casually, but at crucial points when things are happening, expressing how you're feeling is something that's very important, helps bond, improve. Another thing that came out was that having genuine curiosity for what's happening in their lives, listening to them, asking questions. Something that actually came to my mind is, a grown up gentleman telling me that his mother does not ask questions about what's happening in his life. If he is voluntarily sharing something, she'll listen. But otherwise, if it's about, let's say, a relationship or about work, she doesn't actively ask questions. And that made him feel that she's not really interested, right? So yeah, I think maybe doing all of those things will not only enhance the relationship, but hold on to that sense of safety that we want children to feel, especially in the adolescence, because behind that facade of confidence and growing up, there is actually a lot going on. There's a storm raging. So
Exactly, this turmoil is not seen, and maybe there comes one day wherein the child is going to just open up so much. So these are very, we would say, small things. At times, if you've not done that before, it might be a huge task for you, but we can always take it one step at a time. Right? And like we were earlier talking about being friendly and not being the friend, we talk about setting boundaries. We talk about setting rules and consequences. So even if you talk about a situation where the parents are working from home, uh, yes, there are certain rules to be kept in place. If the parents are working, share with them that, okay, what are you working? Or would you have your camera switched on? Or would you not be okay with having disturbances around? So the child understands it. It's not something the child has to guess on their own and be maybe scolded later or be very doubtful. Okay, is this something that I can do or can I not do or indulge into? It's always better if we set the boundaries and rules and consequences for the same beforehand. We're not just talking about, okay, punishment, but we're also talking about what will be the consequences for the child. For example, if they're taking part in an event, if they win, what is the consequence? If they are not able to win, okay, how are we going to take it forward then? Also, important is that you be available with them and be there with them without any distractions. Like you were sharing about this boy's story. Similarly, there are, so many situations wherein maybe parents are working, they're like, okay, fine, speak. I'm listening. But are you? That's the question that comes to the child's mind. And then they might tell you that, okay, you're working only, you're not listening. So set aside certain time, maybe create that little ritual that you have wherein you are just involved with your child without any distractions. And if all 3 meals of the day are not possible, you're working, the child is going to the school, at least some part of the day can be devoted wherein you all are sitting together. And if there are more than one children in the family, how about you also have that one-on-one connection or that one-on-one ritual with any your children, right? Because we feel that all of us are sitting together as a family, but maybe the child is craving that attention, craving that that one-on-one time with you. So how about we start devoting that time, because that is further going to maintain and develop that trust. If you promise something to the child, try to deliver it. Because if it happens time and again that you are always being the sorry figure, that, oh, I'm really sorry, I could not do this, we understand that you're working and there are so many stresses in your own life as well. But try to deliver those promises as much as possible. And if you're not able to do that, again we go back to expressing it out, that why was it that you were not able to do that, so that the child also has an idea that, okay, if it did not work this time, why? They have the answer, and maybe next time what can be done in a situation like that.
Very true, very true. I feel often, parents oscillate between the two ends, not being able to meet the needs or keep the promises, and just making excuses for it. And on the other hand, maybe just going way out of their usual path to meet the promises just because bola hai, just because I've promised it. And I was wondering if it's possible through these engagements also to foster a sense of reality in the children, that things don't work out sometimes, at that worldview that you could try but it still may not happen, and it could be a little disappointing, but you learn that, you take it in a stride. So do you think that's also something that can happen alongside? Because
Within
this,
this
the reason
process
I
only.
ask again, within this process, because there's this one complaint that we hear of very often is that especially adolescents, there's a huge sense of entitlement. I've seen parents complain about it. I've seen definitely grandparents complain about it, where children just expect things because they want it. Whether it is about gadgets or about other things, right? And sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's not. But there's this fear of, in the parents' minds, there's this fear of, oh, what if I'm not able to meet the need that my child has, I'm not good enough, I'm not providing enough, right? There's also comparison that's constantly happening, because maybe the other children have this, other children are going here, doing that. So how does a parent foster that sense of reality and resilience in a child without compromising the relationship?
Right. So we also have to look into that, was the parent always just being a providing figure material wise? They wanted a gadget, we provided that readily, because at times the parent also have this feeling within themselves that if they are giving them certain things, they're kind of compensating for the time that they're not spending. So are you providing all these gifts and gadgets just as a compensation and kind of reducing your guilt? And what happens when we start doing that time and again, over and over again? Yes, that further then develops a sense of entitlement. And
Right.
there are situations when you are not able to provide that, that is when it's going to shake that relationship a bit. The
Right.
child, especially in their adolescent stage, they become too cranky, they are complaining, and the parent is not then able to handle that. So we would encourage you to start setting these things beforehand, and not only substituting that for the time you're not able to spend with your children.
Right. Right. So I hear you. I think this is a very valid point. I think it's the question is whether you made a promise and you could keep it or not, but more about what that promise means to you and to the child. A promise of a gift, if that means my parents' love, then you've very high stakes. But if it just means another thing of utility, then it's all right. Then your child is likely to be able to understand.
And material things are going to subside after a time, but your feelings are going to be constant, and then that relationship is going to last for a really, really long time. So just a very small little activity that I wanted to do, and for all our viewers also, if you can just simply close your eyes and just follow my instructions, and let's do that for a minute, less than that. Please close your eyes, everyone. Okay. I don't want you to imagine a tree. Don't do that. I don't want you to imagine that tree is of a mango. I don't want you to imagine that this tree is completely laden with mangoes. They are ripening and pop, one mango falls down. I don't want you to imagine that. I don't want you to imagine that this bright yellow mango is in your hand. I don't want you to imagine that you're feeling that mango and you really want to eat it. I don't want you to imagine that you've kept the mango down and you are stepping forward. Okay. So what actually happened there? Can anybody share? What was going on in your mind when I was constantly giving you these instructions which you were not supposed to follow?
It became more difficult to, of course it was imaginary, but then it's more difficult to not do something when that's part of the prompt.
So if I relate that with the kind of instructions we give it out as parents, so were you over here listening to more of the no's? Don't.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
was that further resonating with you?
It wasn't helpful. Yeah, absolutely.
So when, as a parent also, we are giving instructions to our children, when we are talking to our children, we need to be clear with what we need or what we are wanting out of the child. Because this creates a sense of confusion. This further kind of makes them feel questioned in their head that what is it that I should do? And when we incorporate a lot of no's, no, you're not supposed to do this, no, don't shout, don't do this, all the no's then stay with the child. So like we always relate a no or a don't with a negative aspect, this feeling of negativity then further loiters around, which we would not want when we are trying to work on that relationship. So whenever you are interacting, try to send across your message clearly, try to express out your feelings, what you're really feeling, and not just what is in your head. It can be difficult at times, but there is always a start. We talk about taking these baby steps at a time, and then further, the bigger picture is always going to fall into place. And we do understand that this can take a toll. this whole parenting aspect, this whole journey, trying to be with the child, trying to manage your own work, there are stresses at the work front. We understand that it can take a toll on you, right? And we do really support the mental health part. So many reports, and it has actually increased so much after this pandemic. 1 in 4 out of the caregivers is actually battling with some mental health concern or the other, some stress or the other. And this mental health of the parents and the children actually has a very strong connection. And the child's healthy development, we always say, and we have been saying it from the beginning of the session, it depends on their parents. And supporting the parents' mental health is also very, very important. There can be, when we're talking about that parental roles and the transitioning to the parenthood, the differences between the mother and the father or the husband and wife can also take a toll. Right?
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree. One of the okay, we have a mic on. Host, could you please mute Namita? Yeah. I was sort of thinking of that adage, that the best thing that parents can do for their children is to deal with their own issues. Because with work and life and parenting, it's already, a lot on your plate. And then if there are mental health issues or well-being related challenges, health challenges that a parent is facing, it just makes things so much worse for themselves and vis-a-vis for the children, right? So while these things happen, it is important, I guess, again, I'm coming back to that whole being aware, being mindful as a parent of what you are going through. Because if you are not, then it's going to sort of, bleed into the relationship. It's going to impact your children. So being aware of that seems like, a major takeaway from our conversation today. Be aware of your own mental health, see how it's affecting you, and in turn, how it can affect your children. And get help if you need to.
That introspection really matters a lot, and you will see that clarity. The questions, if they are coming and if you are not able to answer, it's okay. It's okay.
Right.
There is so much on your plate already, and you can take a toll. And we are, there is a limit to everything that we do. Even if you're the best multitasker, after a point, it will take that toll on you physically, emotionally, mentally, and we do understand that.
So true. We do have, finite amount of resources, whether it is energy or patience or whatever it is, and it does run out at points. So that's absolutely fine. Another thing that really stood out for me throughout our conversation today was how everything that you do, there has to be consistency. Like a lot of things done in a short span of time with a dry spell that follows after, where you're not able to provide the same things that you did earlier, probably doesn't do much good, right? So these things that we talked about, like listening to them, being there for them, giving them your time and attention, and not trivializing them, all of these things need to be done consistently. Even if it isn't a lot, but if it is done in, throughout their growing up years, I think eventually there is a bond that develops, which is not only healthy and supportive, but it sustains them through the trials and tribulations that life will throw them into in the future as well, right? Mhm. Thank you, Megha. I think this has been very insightful, and so many little things keep coming out, and I feel like we keep coming back to some really, really sort of, nuggets, as I like to call them, about consistency, about being friendly but not being a friend, about giving time and your attention to your children, right? And today what particularly stood out is get help if you need to. As a parent, if you need, get help. And on that note, I would also like to remind everyone who's watching that if you're a part of this series, you are eligible for a discount. for counseling services, either for yourself or for your child. And even otherwise, Mana is always here. The experts with Mana are always there to support anyone who needs help. It has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you for being patient and answering all our questions. Any thoughts before we close, Megha? Anything?
I would say that, whatever that you're feeling, whatever that you're going through, it's okay to not be okay. And
Yes.
take that feeling and kind of spend time with your feeling. That is also going to give you so many answers. And also step forward and seek help. That it is not going to be too big of a deal. So many of us have challenges, and the last 2 years have actually changed people so much, changed the situation so much. So it is fine. And yes, parenting is not an easy task, but we will learn and we will keep on growing.
We shall overcome.